What I wanted to do, and I just wonder if this would be okay, is if we could discuss God's essence, the essence of God as Andy sees it. Um, and the reason I'm bringing this up, and so that when when we were talking about God's character forbidding him to sin or to lie or anything else, Andy disagreed with that and said it was his essence forbidding him to sin. So I'm wondering if Andy might be implying that God the Father, who is a spirit, is made up of some sort of tangible substance. When you say essence, what do you mean by the essence of God?
Jumping around here. So the essence of God, we understand that God is a spirit. It's not physical. Okay. Essence of God is very. His whole being is love. Well, God is love. That's it. It's truth. It's His majesty, His magnificence, His sovereignty. In Him is no darkness whatsoever. So if God did have the ability to sin, we know He can't because the Bible tells us so. There would be a blemish there if He was able to do that. And if God had the ability to lie, and we understand what it reads in Hebrews and Titus and the book of Numbers and other places as well, it says that it's impossible for God to lie. Impossible means that it's not possible. Cannot means that He's unable to. If God was able to lie, then it would say that it is possible for God to lie, but He chooses not to.
So how does character then differ from what did you say? What did you call it?
Essence.
The essence. So how does character?
Yeah.
How does character then? Do you disagree that God's character is love? And omnipotence and grace and mercy and peace and all these good things that you just mentioned? Isn't that part of his character?
It's everything. And you could call it his nature, you could call it his character, you could call it his essence, you could call it whatever you want. It's all part of God. That is what God has got. But God, his essence, what God is love. And through that is his nature, and his character pours through that, to his love, to his creation, if you like.
So, how are you saying that character is different than from essence?
But it's all part. I mean, because they're different words.
Yes, they're different words.
Different meanings. Yeah, different words have different meanings.
Okay,
but it's all the same.
When it comes to God, Andy, I'm just asking.
Right.
When it comes to God, what is the difference between? You see, let me explain this. You see, first of all, he's not made up of some physical substance. God is spirit. So when we talk about essence, we have to be talking about his character, because that's the only thing left. That who he is, his personality, they're the same thing. And you're trying to differentiate them. There is no difference.
Well, I'll try and explain it this way. I myself am a human being. I'm flesh. Within my flesh lies my character, my very nature. God, his essence, is love. Within that essence of love is his nature and his character, which he pours out to the whole world and his creation.
You're just randomly.
You've asked me how I understand it.
That's cool.
Because it doesn't agree with your understanding, doesn't mean to say that I'm right or you're right or I'm wrong and you're wrong.
All I'm saying.
You just asked me, please explain.
That's fine, Andy.
And I've done that the best way which I possibly can. Now, I guess what you're going to try and do now, you're going to try and twist it somehow to try and flip it around and make his character his essence.
You want to let him talk, or do you want to guess about what he's going to say?
Well, I think I know where this conversation's going, but carry on.
Well, it just seems very inconsistent, Andy. That's all. You're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. I don't care if you disagree with me. I really don't.
That's
I'm
fine.
just pointing out that it's very inconsistent. And I'm the one that is constantly being maligned as a heretic. You know this. You called me a
Well,
heretic last time we
well,
talked.
I think
So,
if
so
you,
hold on.
yeah,
So that's why I wanted to have this conversation to show you that there is no difference between character and essence. You're talking about a spiritual being, Andy. Okay, he doesn't have a physical essence. The only
right.
essence God has is his character. That's who he is.
No,
Now, if you want to understand that differently, that's
yes, I do,
okay.
because his
That's
very essence is love.
that's fine. You're allowed to
That is
disagree.
because First John says, "For God is love." That's it. That is his essence. That is the very nature of God. You can call it his character if you like, but to me, it's his essence. The whole being, the essence is the whole being of something. If I was to fill this cup with something, the essence in there would just say, like, it's. I don't want to call it God mind because that's kind of blasphemy, if you like. But if that was in there, would be love, and the outpouring of that love is his character and his nature. That's what I'm saying. So
Okay.
the very essence of God is love. When you say for God is love, that's his essence, and then through that comes his nature or his character,
Are
whatever
you
you want to
saying
call it.
his character isn't love?
It's yes, it is all part of it, and through his
No.
character, it is the inability to sin, the inability to lie, which is where we disagree on that, because you think that God is able to somehow lie, and lie is falling short of his own standards.
No, you mistake what I keep saying. What I keep saying, Andy, is that it is his character that forbids him to lie. His character.
But
And you're trying to
but you
split
also
hairs. You're trying to
no.
split hairs and say, no, it's not his character, it's his essence. And then you go
Right.
on to try to define essence as something different from character.
Well,
Now,
that's
if
the
you were
way I
talking,
understand it.
well, that's fine.
But
That's fine.
I have heard
So
you say that God has the ability to lie and the ability to do all things, including the
I
works
said,
of darkness.
well, let's represent this correctly.
No,
God has the potential, the potential to choose whatever he wants to do.
right,
Okay, but it pleases him to do good. I believe in the word omnipotence.
right. So,
If there's something that he cannot do, Andy,
yeah,
by
he
choice,
cannot lie.
then he's not omnipotent. Okay,
No,
now if
he
it's
can't
his
lie.
nature, that's right. Now you see, when we were talking not last time, but the second to last time, I actually said, Andy, the difference between us is that you believe one scripture and disbelieve the other. I believe both scriptures. I believe the scriptures that say he is almighty, all powerful, omnipotent. And I believe the scripture that says he cannot lie. You, on the other hand, don't appreciate
Right.
the scripture that says he's
No, yeah,
omnipotent.
I do. See,
Now,
if God,
there's only one way to look at this. Then,
I'm up here.
if you're going to honestly believe both, but you actually said you told JG that my problem was I believed both scriptures, and that made me a very confused individual.
Yeah.
And you actually told me that when I said I believed both scriptures, you told me, well, there's your problem. So you're choosing to believe one and disregard the other.
The love of God
And we
and the,
talked
and the good
about
and the good
choosing one
works as
set of
well.
scriptures over another set of
You see,
scriptures, choosing to
yeah,
believe one set over another.
and I
And
choose
we're
those.
right, and I don't. I choose to believe them both, Andy.
You can't.
Not believe one. Not
Then that's
believe
the
one.
reason why.
You can't. Okay.
That's
Have
why
a
you're
good day.
confused. Okay, that's the reason why you're confused, Eric, because you're choosing both. The two doctrines are running tandem here. God can do the works of evil because apparently God has got the power to do that. He can do all things, therefore he can do the works of the devil. And then on the flip side of that, he can't do those things. So where are you going to be with that? What are you going to be doing? He's confused, and these are the ramblings of a confused man. JG.
You want to address any questions? Because there's been some.
So the way I look at this, the only way it can be true that God is omnipotent and yet he cannot lie is if it's his very character that forbids him to lie, or his essence, or his nature, whatever you want to call it. Period.
Okay, right.
So you're allowed to believe whatever you want to believe and word it any way you want to word it.
Okay.
And so am I.
I like to use verbatim. I like to use, because, dogmatic statements, which is what you say. You see, if God was able to lie, then why did he have to send a lying spirit to Ahab? Why didn't he go himself? Because the reason why he sent a lying spirit was because God cannot lie. And the reason why God cannot lie is because of his very essence or his nature or even his character. But the ability for God not to lie is written right there in Titus chapter 1 verse 2, and it's also in Corinthians as well. Both says cannot, which means that you can't, and while the other one says impossible. It is impossible for God to lie. And even when you look in the Greek there, that defines what the word actually means. And the actual Greek meaning of that word, you can laugh all you like, but this is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
This is where you do a proper Bible study to get to the real understanding of this particular
It's just funny that you're agreeing with me and yet finding a way to disagree.
I'm not,
and that's okay. Yes, you actually did. You actually said it was his character, his essence, his nature. Period. Period.
Okay.
And that's what I've said all along. That's the thing that forbids him from lying.
No, but what you're saying is that he has the ability to do that, but he chooses not to.
Well,
that's
you
what
don't.
You're saying.
That's all right. You can complain about that all day long. You just agreed with me, Andy, and our discussion should be over. But go ahead. I'll give you the last word.
I'll make it known that I'm not agreeing with Eric here because the Bible tells us otherwise. Eric is completely wrong on this particular subject. God cannot lie because it's impossible for him to lie. And when you go to do a Greek study on that word impossible in Hebrews, go to the Strong's Concordance, which is what I've done. I've sent it to Eric. Eric has disregarded that scripture.
No, I believe that scripture 100%. I do.
So what part of impossible?
It is impossible for God to lie because of his nature, Andy.
Right.
Just like you stated.
So
with that, I want to thank you, Andy. Listen, I'm not being rude.
Right. Okay.
I'm not being rude.
You just run off. It's no problem. We understand.
Well, the conversation's over, in my opinion.
Yes, and the Bible wins.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
And I want to thank Jay, and I'd like to say goodbye to Ben.
If it's just possible, I would like to chuck my 2 cents in sense.
Well, that's okay, Ben. But
I
really do have to.
Eric's gotta go. Ben, you can talk with Andy. Okay.
God bless you guys, man. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Jay. Merry Christmas, Ben. Merry Christmas, Andy. I sincerely love you all. God bless you.
You too. Take care, brother.
Okay. Bye-bye. And thank you, Andy.